Boger, CEO of Sensics, about their professional HMDs. Sensics is also a founding contributor of OSVR. It all starts here on Gunters Universe, so stick around and enjoy the show.
VR Chat, the next frontier. These are the experiences from Gunters' universe. His continuing mission, to seek out and connect with VR devs and passionate enthusiasts, to discuss theories, beliefs, and rhetoric of all kind, and to boldly go where no show has ever gone before.
Welcome everyone to Gunters Universe, episode 25. This is the one and only live talk show broadcasting from the metaverse. Join us in VR chat every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific to watch the show live in VR. It's a unique experience and I think you'll enjoy it. Tonight with me I have a great guest, Yuval Boger from Sensics. It's great to have you here. How are you doing?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, appreciate coming out on the show. Let's talk about Sensics a bit. Give us the history of Sensics.
Sure thing. So Sensics has been doing VR for over a decade now. The company started out of Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore when Honda gave Hopkins a large research grant to create a head-mounted display unlike any other. The goal for Honda was to create an HMD that they could use in interior design of cars, so they could feel what the car would be like before they had to build it. The HMD was created. Even by today's standard, it has amazing performance. It had 8 million pixels per eye, so it's not even 4K, it's 8K per eye, 150-degree field of view. It required a whole bunch of computers to operate. And it was used to, I believe, build the Ocr as well as some other cars. From that point on, the two founders of Sensics licensed the IP from Johns Hopkins and started Sensics. And then I joined the company shortly thereafter to help commercialize it. So I've been with Sensics for nearly 10 years. I'd say that in about 8 of those we were selling primarily to high-end professional-grade clients. So we sold a lot to military training applications, to universities that wanted to do research, to big industrials. Once upon a time, a single HMD would cost $200,000, and we felt like we cornered the market, all 5 of them in the world that were willing to pay these kind of fees for an HMD. And over time, prices of course decreased, and this became much more mainstream. Over the last couple of years, we were looking on how we could take the expertise and technology that we've built over all these years and apply it to a broader market. And today we're doing 2 things. One, we have a product that we build for a customer that helps people with vision disability. About 0.75% of the U.S. population has vision that's worse than 20/60 in the better seeing eye, even after eyeglass correction. So if you have 2100 vision, that essentially means that from 20 feet you can see what a person with normal vision could see from 100 feet. So we have goggles that help people with vision disabilities see better. These goggles are now in clinical testing, and we hope to bring them to market very soon. And then
I always love hearing about applications of VR, like helping people with disabilities, not just us doing gaming stuff with it. I had the Diplopia guys that were working on curing cross-eyedness on the show, and so it's really great to hear that. Is that Vision Eyes? Is that the company that you're talking about?
That's a low vision, and we say that gaming is great for, gaming could be great for the wallet, but helping people with low vision is good for the heart.
Absolutely.
It can make a real difference in the quality of life of a person. And then the second subject that we're more known for is OSVR, the open source virtual reality effort. We started that about 2 years ago together with our friends at Razer Razer obviously a global leader in products for gamers, experts in gamers. We are experts in virtual reality. We decided to work together to create an interesting headset for gamers. And as it came time to bring that to market, we decided that the best way to do so would be in an open source fashion. So we put up the schematics on GitHub, we put up the source code on GitHub, and we have a pretty decent team size-wise, and a great team technically, that's driving the project forward together with an increasing number of companies and individuals that contribute to the effort.
I'm a big fan of open source. My day job is web development, and I use an open source program called Drupal to build Fortune 500 scaled websites. So I have a passion for the open source community and really think this is some great work you guys are doing. I wanted to ask about the OSVR and the HMDs and the other things like head, hand, finger, eye tracking, and what the companies that are involved in these sort of devices that are being supported.
Sure. So we announced OSVR at CES in January this year. And ever since, we've been accepting companies into the ecosystem, each bringing their own unique technology, their own expertise. We have nearly 250 companies that have joined the OSVR effort. Some of them super well known, like Intel and NVIDIA and Xilinx. Some of them super well known in the virtual reality world, whether it's Leapmotion or Jaunt. Ubisoft is part of the ecosystem, and so on. And what we try to do with hardware vendors is we encourage them to write what we call plugins for OSVR. The way OSVR works, it tries to abstract, to create sort of a common interface for a device, not so much for a physical device, but for the type of information that it provides. So think about a desktop example. If you have a multifunction printer, it could look to the operating system like a printer and a fax and a scanner and a copier. Maybe it could look like 4 different devices that just happen to be housed in one of them. So if you take something like Leapmotion, they might have a couple of cameras, an infrared camera, a visible camera. They might have something that generates gestures. Of course, they have the skeleton, the sort of structure of the hands and fingers. And so when creating a Leapmotion plugin, we allow people to say, I have these different things that the Leapmotion device can give us. And the reason we want to do that is tomorrow, if you write an application, you write a game that says for instance, wants to use gestures. We want it to run on as many devices as we can HMD-wise. We want it to support as many devices as we can hardware-wise, and also run on multiple operating systems. So you can do a gesture using a nod ring, for instance. You can do a gesture using a Leapmotion controller. You can do, you can use Intel RealSense, for instance. You might be able to use, say, a Razer Hydra if you have something that interprets that into gesture. So it doesn't really matter what hardware you have. As long as they provide a gesture interface, you should be able to use it in your game.
Right. So it's an abstraction layer, right?
But the interface is the same.
Right. So there's some other plugins like Locomotion, supports like the Omni and Cyberith. And could you talk about some of the other plugins? I kind of want to understand some of the more technical stuff.
Sure thing. So we start from the very basic plugins. A basic plugin for us is a tracker. It could be an orientation tracker or a position tracker. We also have what's called an analog interface. Could be anything just from an analog stick on a game controller to something else. We have an eye tracker interface, which is an interface that provides gaze direction and, say, blink. We have a locomotion interface, as you mentioned, which is good for omnidirectional treadmills. We have an imager plugin, which is essentially a camera or a picture or a stream of pictures, like a live video. We have a skeleton plugin. Could be a full body skeleton, could be hands or fingers, and so on. And so we've tried to look at the various types of devices and abstract them into generic types of interfaces and then work with the device manufacturers to support these interfaces. And of course, we've got a display interface which describes resolution and field of view and distortion and everything that goes with that.
And so Oculus, Valve, the work that they're doing could theoretically work with OSVR. You would handle that sort of layer, the HMD layer, and a bunch of those plugins would allow for that, right?
Yes, so OSVR today supports Oculus. We can work with the Oculus Positional Tracker just like we work with the OSVR Positional Tracker or with position tracking as reported by others. We're hoping to soon have support for Vive in terms of that HMD. And so yes, we try to be as inclusive as possible. We realize that there are going to be many different devices out there, and it's of great value to someone creating an application to be able to write to all the various devices.
Okay, and I noticed recently there's a big update to the Hacker Development Kit to version 1.3, and so there's a lot of features listed. Can we go through those a little bit and talk about that?
Sure. I hope I remember everything. But,
sure, it was a lot. I read that all those. It was quite extensive. Lots of updates this time.
Sure. So when the original Hacker Developer Kit was shown in January this year, it had an LCD screen. Now we've got a low persistent OLED screen. We've added positional tracking. People always thought we have great optics in terms of image quality and basically no need to do distortion correction. We've improved them even farther in making them more forgiving in terms of larger eye box. Fewer adjustments. And then there are tons of small things that happen. Face masks get better, cabling gets better. As people use it more and more, we get feedback, and we're just trying to improve the product the best we can.
When you've given demos at conferences, there wasn't positional tracking, right? That's something that came out in this recent release.
Yes, that's new, and so positional tracking is new. We've also had a big software release earlier this week. I mean, the software releases are sort of ongoing. They're on GitHub. Everyone can see them and participate in the vast majority of cases, except when you have things that are covered under NDA. We can talk about that in a little bit. But the release included what we call Render Manager, which does direct rendering on NVIDIA cards. It included predictive tracking. It included a bunch of new interfaces and plugins. So, we're doing our best to improve the platform very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's a great effort. Open source projects are, I think it's going to take more, nobody's getting paid here, so it's all out of that labor of love, and it's one of those other things that kind of warms your heart as well, because it's really giving back to a community. So I'm looking forward to seeing this stuff grow. What if you wanted to get involved? I know there's different levels, like from contributor to developer, verifier. Can we talk a little bit about how that process works of open source platforms and GitHub?
Sure. So it's super easy to get involved. If you are a developer or want to take a look at the documentation or example programs or just see what we're up to, the hub or the gateway to the developer portal is osvr.github.io. It has a diagram showing all the various projects, anything from what we call OSVR core, which is sort of the heart of the matter, to you can see our open source Unity plugin, you can see our open source Unreal plugin, you can see our open source positional tracking, you can see our open source Oculus driver, OpenVR, Steam driver that's still in the works. You can see it there. So people can take a look anytime they want, and of course they're more than welcome to fork it, to make changes, to do pull requests, and Some of the biggest strides in OSVR were done by the community, not so much by the core OSVR team. If you have a hardware, or are you a game developer, or do you want to be a sort of official part of the OSVR ecosystem, that's also very simple, doesn't cost any money. You get on the OSVR website. We encourage you, of course, to write an OSVR plugin, so it has more meaning than just a name on the website. And so very, very simple process both to contribute as well as to join.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the NVIDIA situation, where I guess things are open source, but not that part of it because NVIDIA has those NDAs. So people are, I think what I was reading, not too happy with that. They'd rather you go a different route and make it completely open source. My thinking was, it's just now, it's just in this phase where it's NDA and it's not open yet, but it's what we need right now to have the direct driver support. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, I don't know exactly the reasons why NVIDIA chose to go this way at this time, but one would think that it's a new product, it's a new capability, it's evolving quickly, and it would make sense to limit distribution of the API because it changes a lot, and perhaps it's difficult to support millions of developers all of a sudden trying to use a new API. So NVIDIA was kind enough to make this API available to us under NDA. What we are trying to create on top of it is sort of a generic OSVR software layer, which means that you as a game developer will work with the OSVR layer, and you don't have to worry whether you have an NVIDIA card or an AMD chipset or an Intel chipset, or on mobile a Qualcomm chipset or something other. It would perform pretty much the same capabilities on all of them. Naturally, we have to respect the request of NVIDIA in terms of NDA, so we can't release their API at the moment until they let us. But one of the things that we've seen is that if companies already have an NDA with NVIDIA, as far as we've seen, NVIDIA then basically says, yeah, you can share your source code with company XYZ because we're already covered with them, and we're happy to do it. So we're not keeping it to ourselves, we're just respecting our commitment to NVIDIA, and perhaps NVIDIA changes what they want to do with the API over time, and we'll change accordingly.
Right, I think it's important to work with them right now, but there isn't anything necessarily on the horizon where that will change.
I don't know. So,
right.
Even in the current state, the render manager, what it does give you, it gives you direct rendering on the 20-something HMDs that are supported by OSVR. So you have a choice. You're not locked to a particular HMD, and we'll soon repeat the process with other chipset vendors, and then you wouldn't be required to use a particular graphics card. So we're thankful for NVIDIA's effort and for including us in this, and we try to add value on top of that. Just have to respect their legal wishes.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about what are the optics like. What's the latency like? What's the experience like, especially after all these updates?
Well, it's going in the right direction, right? So if you sort of think about latency, you can divide it into a couple of different things. You can say, well, how fast is my sensor giving out information? So for instance, with OSVR, the OSVR Positional Tracker gives positional information at 100 hertz, which is good. It's more than we've been used to before. So you get position update every 10 milliseconds. Then you say, all right, well, how quickly does that sensor information get all the way up to the game engine or to the application? So one of the things that we've released with this latest 0.6 version of OSVR is support for a tool called ETW, Event Tracing for Windows. which is a Microsoft tool, very sophisticated, that lets you do super fine time stamping and measurements of how long it takes, between events. So that allows you to do optimization really from top to bottom at the stack to make sure that the information gets to the plugin or to the game engine as quickly as possible. We're also doing work on the game engine plugins to make sure that the updates are as late as possible. We've added predictive tracking that basically makes it looks into the future a little bit and gives the feeling that latency is better. And of course, the work with the render manager, direct rendering, bypassing the operating system, front buffer rendering. So there's no magic bullet, but we've divided the problem into 5 or 6 sub-problems, and we can show progress on every one of them. And oh, by the way, we also released several months back a latency tester, an open source latency tester, which allows both us as well as anyone else to test the end-to-end latency of the system.
That's fantastic. So when are people going to get to try this at conferences? Do you have anything lined up?
Try at conferences, you mean?
Yeah, like the new version with the positional tracking. I'm curious I can't wait to hear more about people's direct experience.
One of the things that sort of the division of labor between Sensics and Razer is that Razer is usually the one driving the trade shows and the marketing aspect of OSVR.
I see.
So I'll have to check what's the next big show, and I'll let you know. We can post it on the forum.
Very good. And what do you guys think of when we talk about Oculus and Valve and this now competitive market, and of course all the HMDs that are working with you guys? I guess it's kind of a hard question. Are you guys just your position on it, all this market and the competition, and what you see in the future, and I'm sure hoping that this all blows up and gets very popular. But what's that like in this market right now?
Well, it's a lot of fun. We've been sort of walking the VR desert for all these years, and all of a sudden we start seeing signs of water. So that's great. OSVR is trying to be as inclusive as possible. We support Oculus. We support Valve and Vive in 2 ways, actually. One, we're planning on writing an OSVR HMD driver for Vive, so whatever runs on OSVR you can run on Vive. But we also have a beta plugin of OSVR into OpenVR, which means that you should be able to run games that are built on OpenVR on Sensics and other OSVR headsets. So as far as the ecosystem, we try to be very inclusive. Sensics is definitely not building an end-user brand. Our goal is to facilitate larger companies, consumer electronics companies that want to leverage our experience and technology, the OSVR ecosystem, into bringing exciting VR products to market. We want to help them. So I think it's much more likely that you'll see OSVR inside and Sensics inside other people's products as opposed to an OSVR or Sensics branded product at Best Buy. As far as the market, right now there's a lot of growth, lots of new companies coming in. Over time, I'm sure there will be consolidation. Some people will decide that it's not a good market for them. Some people will get acquired by others. Not that much different from the phone market, right? You can think about Apple, closed system. You can think about Android, open source, very prevalent operating system, and a lot of phone makers. Some made it and some didn't.
So I just have a couple more questions, and then I'd like to open things up to the audience. So audience, if you go ahead and think about some questions, that would be great. And so a couple things. I just basically want to, ask you if there are any other details or any thoughts that, we could learn from, or the community, people that are going to watch this recording in the future. and then after that talk about the release date, which I believe is coming in October. What are we going to expect with that?
So I think it's definitely worthwhile to subscribe to the OSVR mailing list. You'd get updates of what's happening hardware and software-wise. There's a lot of progress. I think if anything, what this project learned us is that there's tremendous power in the community and the open source community. I mean, the OpenVR project is just one example. We tried to write the plugin, and at some point we got stuck. There was a bug that we just couldn't find. And then we said, you know what, let's just put it out there and say, hey guys, this is where we are right now. We've got this bug. Anyone wants to take a look? And guess what? 2 days later, someone found a solution, and we made more progress along those lines. So there are a ton of things that happen in OSVR, and joining the community, or at least monitoring the mailing list, is a good idea. With regards to the October release, October is when version 1.3 of the Hacker Developer Kit is going to be sent out. At present, we're shipping 1.2 Hacker Developer Kits that are not as nice. And I think that's when Razer is going to start fulfilling end-user orders for anyone that wants to get their hands on an HDK and start hacking it and see what it's like and so forth.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm a big fan, again, of open source community, and feel like basically crowdsourcing, or being able to put it all out there. You get these passionate developers that will take a look at that and fix these problems. Will contribute back to core, and so I'm really excited to see how this grows. I think it'll keep picking up momentum as we go forward. So yeah, let's open things up to the audience. Hopefully there's some questions out there. Just go ahead and say your name and ask your question if you have one.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, Pizzy, what's up?
Pizzy. I didn't read, but how are you doing the positional tracking, and are you thinking of, could you eventually adopt Lighthouse down the road?
Great question.
So I'd like to answer it in two ways. So the OSVR Hacker Developer Kit positional tracking uses an external camera and infrared light that are baked into the device. So not much different than the way it happens in the DK2. One of the things we're starting to do is we see hardware vendors that would like to put some version of these IR boards in their product. So maybe you have a sword or a gun or a glove or something that you want to track. So we can work with you to add positional tracking to your product. With regards to Lighthouse, we'll definitely support Lighthouse at the software level, meaning that Lighthouse is going to be just one more positional tracking system or positional tracker plugin into OSVR. Whether we're going to use Lighthouse in the OSVR Hacker Developer Kit, we don't know yet. Part of it is, we need to see Valve opening it up and allowing people to use it, and then we'll make a determination. But it's important to understand that the Hacker Developer Kit, meaning the hardware of OSVR, is truly separate from the software. You can use one without the other. And so they might follow two separate paths downstream, and they might not be as connected as they appear right now.
Okay, I think I understand. Thanks.
Thanks, Pizzy. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, hi, Purifier.
Hi, I wanted to ask you about your professional line of HMDs. How many months or even years do you think it will take to have something like the PA site, which costs roughly $100,000, dual 4K, 180 degrees FOV, and eye tracking for, let's say, less than $1,000?
I'm truly sorry. I have had a really hard time hearing the question.
Okay. Simply put, how many years do you think it will take for professional HMDs to come down in cost, like the PI site to cost $1,000 instead of $200,000?
How many years it took to get from $200,000 to...
Sorry, I'm Italian, so my English is not perfect.
Yeah, how, you know, any kind of estimation, when are we going to see, you know, just looking into the future, the Z site, you know, that's $100,000 come down to something that consumers can buy, you know, that kind of quality?
Sure. So, you know, the $100,000 product we don't sell anymore, right? It's too complex to build, and it requires a big array of computers, and you know, it was great when there were no alternatives, but I think there are you know, decent alternatives right now. And I think one thing that you'll always see with the professional market is that people try to push the envelope farther, right? When you had regular standard resolution TVs, people made HD TVs, and then when HD TVs became common, you had 4K TVs, and when you have 4K TVs, so there's always something else. I think there's always going to be a market for a Lamborghini, right, in a car fashion, or for a gold-plated iWatch.
Right.
But we definitely have products that we have created, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, where today they might not be as popular because the low-end market has caught up with them, and, you know, happily we have new higher-end products.
So we're basically getting
One
there.
thing I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, high-end doesn't necessarily mean just resolution and field of view. High-end could mean, in the case of the military, could be environmental conditions, something that you could accidentally drop from, you know, 3 feet from a meter onto a concrete surface and wouldn't break.
Yeah, I remember a video from your website in which one operator used an HMD under the shower.
Yeah, that was me, and I haven't decided yet if it's one of my prouder moments or... But yes, to demonstrate the ruggedness of the HMD, I took a sort of televised shower with it, and then we also put it at the back of a truck and drove like madmen and saw that it survived the trip.
Yeah, so rugged eyes is important, and also I would assume sanitizing
Another question.
things you would have.
Remember, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I remember a few years ago you announced a concept of a augmented reality HMD, the white one all covered with cameras. When will we see that?
Are you referring to what we call the smart goggles that had...
Yeah, that one.
So the smart goggles was an experimental product. Only a few of them were made. The resolution in today's standard is not anything very special. What was unique about it is that it had built-in Android processing, so you could basically run everything inside the goggle. And it also had an array of cameras, which sort of accounted for the space-age look of the product, that could do hand detection, hand position detection in real time. But since then, you know, with the Kinects and the Leap Motions and others, there's less of a need for that product. So I don't think it's ever going to see, I don't think that unit number 10 is ever going to be built for that product. But we definitely had a lot of fun building it and got a lot of attention, which we tried to leverage into the next product.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Purefire. Great questions. Any other questions? All right. Yuval, do you have any other places you like to send people? You've talked about the OSVR newsletter, but can people follow you somewhere?
Sure. So just highlight, so the OSVR Developer Portal is at osvr.github.io. I blog every week or a couple of weeks about what I think is interesting in the VR industry. Sometimes it's a Sensics customer story, sometimes it's something new about OSVR, sometimes it's how a particular set of optics work. And my blog is vrguy, VRGUI, so vrguy.net. And then, of course, there's Sensics.com if you want to take a look at the breadth of our professional products. And either way, whether through OSVR, through my blog, or through Sensics, we'd be happy to hear from you and see if we can help you in any way.
Fantastic. And before we close, I just have a few announcements about VR Chat. We're doing movie night tomorrow, so that'd be very cool if y'all want to come out and see a Roddy Piper movie called Hell Goes to Frogtown. So we're all getting together in here. Friday night we do karaoke night. I'll be streaming some demos on Sunday. We do our Sunday meetup. So that's great. Next week, though, next Tuesday, I will not be here. I'll be out in LA for Oculus Connect, so there'll be no show next week. But I'll be periscoping a lot of live video, interviews, after-party stuff, maybe just my journey through the whole thing. It'll be very casual and fun, so that'll be great. And definitely go to my website, guntersuniverse.com, and subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get all the updates when shows are coming out. And consider contributing $1 to the efforts here. You can go to patreon.com/Gunter. That would be very, very appreciative. And that's pretty much it. Yuval, it's been really great. I've learned a ton, and I think the audience and the people that will be watching the recording will really enjoy the knowledge that you've dropped here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gunter, for having me. I'll be happy to come back at some other time in the future.
Fantastic. All right, so take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Now we can stretch our legs.
Oh, I did have another question. I forgot. What's the subpixel arrangement? Oh,
we'll wait till after the music. It's hard to hear. That's all right. Just got our.
Have one too later.
Yep. Music's loud, but it's all gonna get quiet soon, and then we can talk some more.